Hey, podcast listeners, we are wrong with you once again with Nonprofit Lowdown. Today, I am speaking with a second-time guest, my friend Christina Edwards. She is the founder of Splendid Consulting, and today we're talking about how email equals money. So this is particularly relevant for those of you thinking about end-of-year appeals. So, Christina, welcome back to the show.
It's awesome to be back. I'm fired up and ready for this conversation. So let's do it.
Do this because I sent you some questions in advance, but we're just gonna like chat it up. So, um, why? Well, actually, no. Before we get started, for folks who don't know you, which also where have you been? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your commitment and passion for email as a vehicle for money.
Yes, yes. So I feel like I'm my first best customer slash guinea pig. So everything we're going to talk about today is how I've built my own business. I've been a lifelong entrepreneur. So I've been in this world for a really long time. So I had to build my email list. I had to build my client and customer list. So we're going to get into that today. But yeah, I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia, and I've been working with nonprofits and social entrepreneurs. And at this point, I feel like a little bit of a Swiss Army knife. So we can talk about marketing. We can talk about online fundraising, business growth, mindset, because it's all kind of part of the mix for your organization to grow and finally get past those plateaus that we see time and time again.
Okay, I'm just gonna jump into it because I'm excited to talk.
Yeah.
I hear people say email is dead. What's your response?
I feel like that's kind of how we all feel, right? About anything that's not shiny and new, right? So think about it if somebody said jeans are dead. And I'm like, actually, I spent probably 6.5 out of 7 days in jeans because they're comfortable and I can dress them up or dress them down. Like jeans aren't dead. How is it that we keep reinventing the jean so that I keep buying a new pair every single year, if not way more than one? Okay. Email is not dead. In fact, it is the backbone, I believe, to a successful organization that is fully funded and growing year over year. I wanted to say online. I'm like, forget online, a successful organization, period. It is the backbone to it in a way that social media is not.
So let's talk about that because we're out here trying to do all the things, right? I can hear my harried executive directors being like, email, social media, whatever. Like, I'm not going to do TikTok dances. What is the relationship between social media and your email list?
Yeah. Yeah. So when I first got into the online course business, so I have several courses now. I started with really an online fundraising influencer marketing course. So it was my social media course. And that's rocking and rolling. And we're seeing amazing results. But what I noticed was, I was like, y'all ain't emailing. Y'all are sitting on a gold mine over here. And the two aren't even friends. Like they're not even connected. You're thinking about your email as some sort of place to like clunk thank you letters once a quarter or some sort of weird long program update. And the two are not interconnected and they need to be. And that's why I built the email course. So I like to think of social at the top of a funnel. So if we're picturing like an upside down triangle, top of funnel is social. Social is how people hear of you, right? We're on our phones all day, me too. And that is how we hear of you. But email is where you want to drive people towards from social to email, because email is where the money happens. All of the for-profit businesses will tell you this. Go stop somebody who is past the $1 million mark, whether they're an e-com brand, whether they're any sort of brick and mortar online business. Ask them, do you get most of your customers through social or through email? Even one of my favorite friends, she's past the $1 million mark in her e-com business, her online business, in social media. And she's like, Christina, emails where the sales happen. She uses social media to bring people to her email list. When she runs campaigns, she runs them on email, and that's where the revenue comes in.
I love that so much. I always think about it like if social media is like the little freebies that you get at Costco, email is where you buy the meal, right? Like email is the thing that sells it.
That's perfect. Yeah, it's like the little containers, the toothpick in it. That's social. And email is where you get the palette of whatever was in the container. Yes.
Really good. Well, okay, let's talk about this because I just published an interview with Sean about Facebook fundraisers. And I think people think that social is where you do like fundraisers, Facebook fundraisers, and so forth. So what do you mean when you're saying that the money is raised on social?
Yeah. Which I love Sean. I listened to that and I was so excited. He taught me something in that interview. He said, Facebook is now giving you the email addresses. And I was like, yes, finally, because that was my number one beef with that piece. What he said, and go back and listen to that if you haven't, is that he talked about email almost being an advanced level to nurture all of those people who come in through the Facebook fundraisers, right? So let's say you get 100 new donors through this Facebook fundraiser, and we see a lot of churn through Facebook fundraisers, right? Because they're not really being nurtured. He's right. They're not being nurtured. So you have to wait for your Aunt Debbie to do another Facebook fundraiser next December to get 100 new people, right? When in fact, what I want you to do is I want you to use Sean's strategy 100%. And then I want you to bring them over to email and nurture the heck out of them, and in a way that's scalable. So instead of picking up the phone and instead of writing a bunch of handwritten notes, those are amazing too. But you don't have to do that with email. We can create automations. We can segment people out. Those first 30 to 60 days are the honeymoon period. It is, I know like some people are like, oh, dating. It is kind of like dating. Like if you go out on a date with somebody, they don't call you and they don't text you and you thought you hit it off, it sucks. Like they're no longer top of mind. And if I make $100 donation to your organization, I don't hear from you, that sucks, right? But if you can guide me over to email and start nurturing me over there, suddenly that sweet spot, that honeymoon period is really, really important. Now I'm connected to you, right?
All right, I'm going to take a little detour on social media, and then I want to talk all about email. But I think what I've seen a lot is that people get really seduced by the, call it vanity metrics, like how many likes did I get? How many comments did I get? And like, I don't like, convince me I'm wrong. I'm like, that doesn't mean anything to me.
Meaningless. And in fact, I have an entire digital marketing course. And the way that I teach it is I tell them onboarding. First thing I tell them, stop creating so much content. Stop it. Stop it. If you're spending 5 hours a week, I actually got on the phone with somebody today. They said they spend 4 hours a week with content. I'm like, oh my God, stop. I would rather, as it pertains to your social media, go create some partners, go create digital ambassador program, leverage the visibility, right? Which is really what a Facebook fundraiser is doing that Sean's talking about. Go start working with influencers. And I want your actual content from your own organization to be minimal. Why? Because 1 to 10% of people who follow your account are seeing it. That is a fraction. If you have 1,000 followers, it's 100 people on your best day that's seeing that content. It is not a good ROI of those 5 hours spent. So you need to put a little bit of content on there to keep the lights on, but go make some partnerships with influencers and ambassadors. That's how you grow online, by the way. That's the ticket. And then go start running some campaigns on your email list. So I'm with you all the way. Those metrics don't really matter. The metric that matters to me are more like conversions, right? So are we actually seeing people go to your website and take action?
Okay, let's talk about email nurture sequences, because I think a lot of people, there's like a new concept for them, because a lot of times what I've seen is there's a website and it's like, join our newsletter. And so maybe I join the newsletter, but then there's nothing there that invites me in. It's like showing up at a house party and not knowing anyone and then having everyone ignore you. So what do we mean by an email nurture sequence?
Yeah, so an email nurture sequence is a simple, it can be 3 to 5 emails. It's like welcoming people into your front door. So imagine I show up to your house party for the first time. I know no one. Like, can you introduce me to some people? Can you show me around? I don't even know where the kitchen is. Like, walk me in. And a nurture sequence does that during that honeymoon period. So instead of waiting till next quarter to get that newsletter from you, you do it during that sweet period where I actually remember the name of your organization and I'm kind of interested. If you've ever downloaded a coupon for free shipping like I have from some random store, they put you typically through a nurture sequence. They're like, wait, were you sure you didn't want to look at that sweater? How about this hat? What about this? Right? You're getting like a quick clip to welcome you in. And I like to remind people, assume most folks are starting at 0. I don't know about your organization. I don't know a ton about the sector you serve. I'm interested, but don't assume like I'm on, chapter 7 of the book. Assume you could start with some of the foundational pieces about about your organization, about your mission, some of those things.
Okay, let's talk about some of the cardinal sins that I've seen, and I'm sure you have as well, which is what I've heard is a lot of people are like, oh, but I don't want to send out too many emails.
Oh God.
I get unsubscribed. So first, let's break that apart. What is too many, and why are unsubscribes not a problem?
Okay, I've still yet to meet the nonprofit that sends too many emails. I haven't met them yet, and I've met a lot of you guys. So y'all haven't hit the too many mark. I would say if you're treating it like Twitter, like X, like in your like live feeding emails, that's too many. But in general, there isn't. You want a quick clip in the beginning, because guess what? I'm not opening all your emails. I'm not reading all of them. My kid walked into the room. I got distracted. The phone rang. I got a text message. I had my phone up. Now I forgot it, right? You need to send more emails. So don't be scared to send more emails. Don't be scared of that unsubscribe button, because I'm going to go back to the dating example. I'd rather know you're into me or not. And I'd rather not pay to have you on my list, because it does cost money to have your CRM keep a bunch of leads, a bunch of subscribers in your world. And if they're either not opening your emails or just not that into you, so they're not even caring, then you actually want them to unsubscribe. People really, really like micro focus on that. And again, we're going to use round numbers. 1,000 people, and let's say you have 3 people unsubscribe in that email. That's fine. That you sent that day, not a problem. Nothing's gone wrong. I rarely find an organization that's having just globs of unsubscribes to where that would be an issue worth looking at.
Okay, but here, let me ask before we get into email content, which I think is super.
Yeah.
important. How do I know if it's a problem of they're just not that into me, and that's fine? They have crappy content that people don't want to read.
I would actually say most times it's crappy content people don't want to read. That's my tough love, is most of the time what I'm seeing in the industry are these long form newsletters that are kind of like newspapers. Remember like the long form newspapers, and they're boring. And it has an ominous entity that is the voice. I'm not connected with it. It's not interesting. That's why I'm deleting it or sticking it into my I'm never going to read folder. It's typically that, versus, wow, you said something really controversial, or you said something that I really don't agree with, and now I'm hitting the unsubscribe. Rarely is it that. You'll know if you'll know if you're in that camp, because you're going to get replies from people who say, how dare you write about that thing? I disagree. Most likely it's more of a content issue.
Okay, let's talk about this, because this is my pet peeve with most nonprofits. And look, y'all know I love you, but real talk, it is really boring, and they're long form. And actually, let's go back, because there's something you said that I want to hit on. What is the right amount, right? Because I think that may differ. My opinion, like once a month is too few. Once a week feels about right. Once a quarter is like, I've forgotten your name. So what's the right cadence in your opinion?
That's right. So you're right on track. So once a month used to be me pushing people like on their frequency. Now I'm like, no, that's not even enough. Once a month is not enough. At minimum, every other week. A nice cadence is once a week. And I want to give you the caveat: if you are running a campaign, meaning a fundraiser, more than once a week, which usually makes people feel sweaty if it's not Giving Tuesday. Like, let's say you have a campaign in April and it lasts a week long. I want to see a lot more emails that week, which most people get very uncomfortable with. But again, it tracks. The more emails you send, the more money you make. The two like go hand in hand.
So let's talk about the right combination of content versus promotion, right? Because I think the other mistake I see is that nonprofits kind of ramp up the emailing when there's an ask, but they haven't actually warmed up the audience. So again, that's like jumping into a party and asking people to marry you without. So talk to us about, like, how do we think about the warm-up period before we do a solicitation?
Yeah, so this may be a little different from what you hear, but in general, I think we are a distracted world. I think that we have a lot of people, particularly millennials and Gen Z, who, when they find a cause that they care about, they want to donate yesterday. They want to get involved yesterday. And if you are nurturing too long, you're missing it. So I actually think, if I think of a sales funnel, I think there are some people who want to fast track through that funnel. I want to help now. And if you're just staying in that 80-20 rule of like, I got to nurture, then you're missing those people. So I actually am fine with you having quite a few soft calls to action in your nurture emails. And then in general, yeah, you should ramp up in your more campaign specific emails. But a good welcome sequence will handle that like, who the heck are you? Why should I care piece? And is what you do valuable? It should answer those questions. Like, does it work? It should answer those questions so that when you write your update on a Tuesday and you have maybe a story about a Zoom call that you want to share that really kind of stuck with you, or maybe you picked your daughter up from school a little early and you want to loop that into something that happened to you, that you can have a PS in there. You can have a call to action that's like, hey, I've been working on this monthly giving program launch. Take a look at the page. Like, what do you think? Like, you can weave in like, we are fundraising, without being like all hands on deck fundraiser. I want both.
Okay, let's talk about content and personality, because I find, again, maybe it's me, most nonprofit newsletters, emails they get are completely devoid of personality. There's
That's
no
right.
strong brand, there's no strong brand voice. So how do we get over our fear of having a strong brand voice, a strong brand personality? Because otherwise, blah, right? I don't like
Yep. We could take a whole episode on this, but essentially, one, you've got to be willing to not get approval from everyone. Meaning, I had organizations go through my course and it's like, well, normally we send all of our drafts of our emails to our board members. And it's like, stop it. No. So that's the first thing, is like, you can't be in like approval city on your content. You need to be clear on your voice. So a good brand voice will kind of help you with that piece. You've got to be willing to say things that are true. That means that some people may not agree with it. That means that some people, you need to use words that are words you would use and not everybody would use. So like putting yourself, the word relatable comes to mind. It's like, what's relatable in your life right now versus an ominous brand that has no actual human feelings, right? It's like, we want to hear more of like, I want a little peek behind the scenes. I want to peek behind the curtain. It doesn't have to be this like super duper vulnerable, I'm hanging that you, it doesn't have to be that, but it can loop into, what are you working on? What's going on? What does life look like in the organization? That's much more interesting than these long form kind of sterile pieces that we typically see in our sector. And when I built my course, it was really hard because I wanted to use lots of examples, and I had to pull from the for-profit sector because I was like, y'all, this is not good.
Yeah, I think we definitely need to up our game here. But the other thing that I see is such a cardinal sin, in my opinion, is they're too long and they're too jargony. And I'm like, first of all, if it's not scannable, I'm not reading it. Secondly, like, I
Yep.
know it's almost like an insecurity of like, I need to like reaffirm that we are competent and smart and we're going to use big words. I'm like, you've lost me. If you are writing at above a, what is
Yep.
it?
Third grade. Yeah.
Again, nothing for you, right? So talk to me
Yeah.
how we might, and again, everyone says it's like, I don't want to dumb it down. I don't want to talk down to my audience. Like, this is not dumbing it down. This is making it accessible. So what would
That's
you
right.
to make it accessible for people?
And interesting. Like, I couldn't wait to graduate from college. I couldn't wait to get out of the classroom. I don't want to read an email that sounds like I'm being lectured to. And when we're formal, that's what it sounds like. When we're talking to each other as we are right now, it's much more conversational. It's much more approachable and relatable. My son is actually in third grade, so he's like the perfect example of this in real life. And I was observing his last baseball season. They lost a game, and I was listening to his coaches try and give this just muddled inspirational speech to the team. And it was full of like cliches and isms and things. And I could see the kids, they had no idea what he was talking about. You know, it was like, get out there and put your best foot forward. They're like, put my foot forward. Like, what? And it's like, say what you mean, talk like we'd all understand, like, and it's a good reminder in your emails too. And that means not necessarily that you're using generic language, but that you're using words that you would use. So if you get stuck and you're like, is this too formal? Pretend like you're talking to a friend, or actually say it out loud. That can be very, very helpful in writing. If I read it out loud, I'm like, I wouldn't say it like that. Then I'll actually go back and kind of rewrite.
So many questions about email. Let's say I'm listening to you, I'm maybe an ED or a DOD. I'm like, yes, Christina, I totally agree with you. We need to up the volume
Mhm.
of content. What do I write about?
Yep. Yep. The best news I have for you is those long monthly newsletters. You're just going to chop them up now. So instead of give me 22 program updates and a blog post and a letter from the ED and the blah, blah, blah and the upcoming event, stop it. And you can actually kind of parse those out into different content pieces. Some of them probably don't need to be emails at all. And also, I want to really kind of inspire you to find, for those of you that have larger teams, even just a team of 2 or 3, who's maybe the person on the team that does like to tell stories, that does like to write. And they don't have to be the ED. I actually want to hear from the comms person. I want to hear from the intern. I want to hear from the program staffer. Let them have a Tuesday, once a month that they do a spotlight. I have some organizations where the ED has really leaned into finding their unique vision, and they actually went back to their why. 20 years later, they wrote a story a few months ago about why they founded the organization and what's next. And all of these people had no idea. It was so fun to tell that story. So almost like your entrepreneur story. Or you can have, now I'm thinking of another one that has our comms person who's really more of like, this is her zone, and the ED is out there fundraising and kind of doing the more operations thing. And it's like, let them take the driver's seat too. So, whether or not you have somebody on the staff that's like, I kind of like writing, I'll go for it. Or we would just want to do more kind of bite-sized updates and pieces in the stories.
Okay, a couple of things I just want to talk about. Let's talk about subject lines, because I think subject lines are often an afterthought, but they should actually be the first thing.
That's right.
So was it David Ogilvy who said that if you have, what was it, $1, he would spend 80 cents of it on the headline?
Yeah, subject lines are everything. They're everything too. If you think about social media, that it's that first line on a social post, that's your hook. Your subject line is the same thing. It's your hook. Is this interesting to me? And a lot of times what I see in our industry is I see subject lines that sound like fall news, blah, blah, blah program update, or your invite to event, or event tickets now, or, and what we want to do instead is we want to create subject lines that spark curiosity, interest. All we want that subject line to do is maybe give me a tiny appetizer of what's inside, or curiosity to open it. That's it. So you don't need to give me a super long subject line. We just want to make me take the next step instead of not reading or deleting that I'm going to open it.
Well, and for those out there, quick tip, I've used ChatGPT to create really compelling headlines, right? ChatGPT knows a lot of stuff, knows more than you about what works out there in the world.
ChatGPT is my assistant. And this is coming from somebody who, I have a regular assistant, but is my writing assistant. Even though my writing sounds like me, I promise you. But if I'm stuck on the end of a sentence, or I know I'm close to a great subject line or a headline for something, I throw it in ChatGPT and I ask it for 10 other options. And I'm like, you run with this. It's so, so helpful. 100%.
Yeah, totally. Okay, a couple more questions I have, and then we have some folks in the audience who have questions. What metrics should we be tracking? Because I think we can also get like a little OCD about our open rates, which I think click-through rates. Like, what are the things that we should be paying attention to as we're building our email list?
So this is a little bit more nuanced, because the first thing I want you to pay attention to is to write way more emails and list build like that, and write emails that you would be excited to read. It's almost like content first before you go super crazy into the metrics. Number one, don't sweat the unsubscribes. I promise you, don't sweat it. You will get unsubscribes if you're doing it right on every single email. I do. It's okay. It's okay. So don't sweat that. Open rate is worth noting. iOS privacy changes have kind of made that a little bit more like unreliable. I do like to see an open rate over 40% or at least 35%. That's what all of our students have. So I like to see that. Click-through rate matters, but my favorite rate is your reply rate. Your reply rate. So meaning you send an email to 10,000 people, just a regular old e-blast. How many replies are you getting? And I don't mean the out of office responders. I mean real life human replies, because that's what we see with my students is actual reply emails. And my favorite ones are the reply emails that turn into major gift meetings, because a great email strategy can literally go to, ooh, we need to meet. wow, I didn't know you were doing that. Oh, tell me more about blah, 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 right? It literally can turn into beating. So your reply rate's really, really important. And you can prompt people to actually reply to you in your content.
What can we do if our open rates are not where we want it to be, if we're below the 40%?
Start with your subject lines. Start with you want to do a little bit of triaging as far as like, is your database super cold? Meaning, do you have just a huge chunk of people? Maybe you've been emailing quarterly and there's just a lot of inactive subscribers that you maybe need to put through a bye-bye series or an engagement series. So it could be a couple of different things. Are your email subject lines boring and we just need to like turn up the volume? There's a couple of different ways we can do it there. If it were me, I'd run people through a short-term re-engagement series, and then I would clean the list. And then I'd bring my email subject line up to more interesting, and you'd start to see that improve. Yeah.
Okay, because I can feel people sweating right now, which is like, what? Take people off my list?
Off my list? I know. But again, you're paying for them. You're paying for them. Any CRM's charging you per lead, right? So you're paying for those subscribers. You want to export, you can back it up. You can do some fun things with Facebook ads later with that list. So like they're usable, they're useful. Those people can always come back. But I mean, like think about all your exes. Do you want all your exes on the couch who don't want to hang out with you, like in the room with you? They're not reading your content. You're not in the like, it's okay. You can say goodbye to those people and welcome in a lot more of the new right people.
And how often do you recommend doing a list cleaning?
So I used to say once a year or once every 6 months to calendar it in. That changed. If you go through and follow what I'm teaching and what you've basically said too in your frequency, you're doing natural list cleaning year round. Why? Because you're sharing content regularly, you're sharing it frequently, either once a week or once every 2 weeks, and you're running campaigns where you have even more content in those campaigns. So people are naturally going to hop on and hop off that way. If you saw a decline in maybe your open rates or something like that, you could do a true list cleaning sequence. I'd say once a year.
Okay. Kind of a technical question, but I know one of the things that trips up people a lot is that their emails end up in spam and then are flagged as like unread. What would you recommend to keep people's email in the inbox versus going to spam? And actually, so, okay, side note, one of my board members once was like, your emails are going to spam. Can you fix that? And I was like, listen, if I could fix that, I would be making a lot more money than I am now.
Yeah. I don't think there's a whole lot you can do on your end other than being careful with your subject line and even maybe your preview text too, of like spammy words and emojis. So like even I'm careful on using the word like free, sale, like some of the words that may be naturally spammy words. I will use them occasionally, but just to make sure, like go look at your spam folder after this and see what kind of like, what's the trend? Sometimes it's like a bunch of emojis, things like that. So I would be mindful of that. That is why click-throughs and replies matter. Because then that subscriber is telling their own CRM, their Gmail, their Outlook, whatever, hey, I care about this person, right? I care about this organization. I want their mail. And then if you saw a whole group of them, you could certainly email them and say, hey, we've noticed, and you could do this in an list cleaning series. You may or may not be receiving our email. Our CRM won't tell us, right? Can you hit reply or can you click this link to let us know you'd like to stay on this list? Or can you primary inbox us? You can ask for those things and just say like, help me help you kind of thing. So there's not one sure fit way, but those are some ways to get started.
A couple of things that I was thinking about as we were talking, and this is just something that I feel like kind of blows people's minds, I'm not sure why, is when I'm creating content as a nonprofit, I have to be thinking about what value am I creating for my reader. And I think sometimes we don't think about that because we think we're kind of in this like extractive mode of like, I need to get something from them versus like, what am I giving to them? So what are the kinds of things that we can give to our reader? What sort of value can we create for them?
Well, at the time we're recording this, like the news is heavy, right? The news is heavy. And when I get an email from a nonprofit that is celebrating a win, no matter how small, I'm like, that makes my day brighter. So if you sent me 5 sentences, a short email that was sharing a win, maybe for a client, right? Or something like that, somebody who went through one of your programs, like that would brighten my day. It would be that simple, is really honing in. You might think of that as a testimonial, but really honing in on like, what does a win look like? And even the small wins, and then even identifying, this may sound like a small win, but it's a huge win. And here's why, right? Like that would brighten my day.
Okay, a couple other questions before we let you go. What I know everyone out here is thinking about their end of year, right?
Mhm.
Is there a recommended number of emails that you would suggest as kind of a sweet spot for the end of year? Is there a particular schedule? I mean, we all know that last week of December is a hot time. I think from my perspective, I was always a little unclear about too early versus too late. I was like, oh, it feels like October is a little too early, but then November, you're kind of in the thick of it. Like, what would your recommendation be?
So I would say give yourself the grace that to your point, there is no exact right answer. For example, last year I ran a Black Friday sale, and the one lesson I learned from that sale was run it the week before, Christina. Run it the week before. Don't actually do the Black Friday sale the week of Black Friday, right? So I think that everybody, and even like your audience's preferences change. What was their preference last year might not be their preference this year. So all that to say, with come up with a plan, be willing to add in and pad in and a couple extra emails, maybe in December, if things are not quite going your way. Go and check your open rates. If we see a decline, maybe we want to add a couple emails, switch out the subject lines, things like that. I like to see like a pregame. So I do like to see you warm up and start seeding those people like, hey, something's coming, right? Start to talk about that. That pregame should be 3 emails, something like that. And then depending on your campaign, I have clients that are running month-long campaigns, others that are doing short little campaigns. So that depends on your frequency for sure too. And yes, that last week, especially those last 3 days matter. Much like Giving Tuesday, there's 2 camps. There's people who are like, it's so noisy, it's so hard to get anything on Giving Tuesday, or the last few days of the year, it's too many. Don't do that. Don't subscribe to that. Get in the arena, send lots of emails. Don't do, I took a screenshot of it last year because it was cracking me up. All of the emails the last week of December, it's just coming back to me now, from like 20 different organizations. They all had the same 3 versions of the same subject line. And I was like, you guys, there was like 3 days left, the same kind of, so stand out, think about what's your flavor, what is within your brand voice, what's interesting, unique, right? That would make me want to open your email versus like the other 20. Now, granted, most individual donors are probably not getting 20 different emails like I am, but think about what are some ways that I can stand out in inboxes that's different from our sector.
Okay. I know I keep saying last question, but I keep lying.
No, let's do it.
What's your stance on Giving Tuesday? Because I feel like, your point, there are 2 camps. I mean, they're probably a lot more significant camps. One is that you got to do it because everyone's doing it. And then there's the I'm not going to do it because everyone's doing it.
Uh-huh.
Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I'm standing the get in the damn arena camp for sure, but do it your way, break some rules. So get in the arena. Everybody's doing it, so you need to do it too. Okay, but I want you to do it differently. I want you to do it in a way so you don't feel like where's Waldo among a sea of red and white striped shirts. So for me, I like to stretch out Giving Tuesday for my clients. I like their Giving Tuesdays to be more than one day. I like the actual Giving Tuesday to be just like all hands on deck, big day, but to stretch out the campaign for sure. And yeah, like go secure a donor match. It is important. I also think about who gives on Giving Tuesday. Who gives on Giving Tuesday I am not the makeup of somebody who gives on Giving Tuesday, because I give like all the damn time because I'm like, right? I think about maybe my neighbor across the street where they're like, "Ooh, Giving Tuesday, what a fun day." That's their day. That's their Super Bowl. So get into their Super Bowl. If you sit it out, then they missed it, right? There is a huge group of people that only give, I think it's like 63%, only give on Giving Tuesday. So speak to them on Giving Tuesday. And then all the other days of the year, we can speak to other people. So it's a different audience to get in front of. It's not the people who are thinking about your organization year round. It's like a new, fresh audience.
Okay, so to your point about Giving Tuesday and the people for whom this is their thing, what are some basic ways that we can segment our list? Because I think when I talk about
Yeah.
segmentation, like I get the deer in the headlights look like, what are you talking
Yeah,
about?
I do too. I think
But
some really simple ways would be if you could pull a list and say, who are the people who gave the last 3 Giving Tuesdays and come up with them and call them a segment, meaning in the last 3 years, these are the folks that gave on Giving Tuesday. Boy, do you need to email them. That's a segment that's really important. Now you've got maybe your wider audience that hasn't. I would send them some emails, but not as many as this very, like, they're the Super Bowl people. That's their day. Also want to maybe pull out or mark in that segment some of those major donors that maybe this isn't their day, right? So you want to focus on them for some more higher dollar asks, or maybe you're going to reach out to them to become a matching gift. So I think that's a good place to start, is who are the people who have given before, and make sure you have them tagged and segmented. So they're the people who should get the most emails. They're the people who should become peer fundraisers, perhaps. Those are the people who are most excited about the day.
the thing I just want to add, I know I'm like a broken record, but I'm just going to say it again so you all,
Yep.
is that you need to also tell people what you did with their money. Like, this is the
Oh my God. Yes.
sector. I think our retention rate is like 40%, which is terrible. And I think a big part of it is that we don't send that next email of, once we get their money, we don't actually tell them what we did.
That's right. Let me offer this. So last year, one of my clients, they stretched out their Giving Tuesday campaign for a week. And then I can't remember, something happened. It took them off the 8 ball of like that, right? Of the thank you. That's okay. And what I said to them was, send it this week. They sent that thank you email about 14 days after the campaign ended. So about two weeks. And guess what happened? They sent the thank you email and they said, here's what we did with your money. Here's the latest. I think they had a big goal that year to double the previous goal, and they came in close, but fell a little short. And guess what happened after they sent that email? Boom, more donations. So not only did they thank their donors, but all the people like me who are competitive or like, I want to win, I want to help them make that goal, showed up and we're like, and we actually, I remember this, he said that they had people respond and go, oh, we missed it. We totally missed it. Where can we donate? So there is no rule. Oh, well, it's too late. Oh, well, I missed it. Yes, there's best practices. And then there's real life where maybe you send it 2 weeks later, but close that loop exactly of what you did with the money.
Well, and I also just want to underscore here that the automated receipt is not sufficient.
No. Oh no.
They're like, oh, but it's automated. I'm like, that's not a thank you. Like, that's not
it.
That's an acknowledgement receipt.
That's right. Oh yes. Thank you for saying that. No. The email is from a human to a human with feelings and a story and emotion and a total amount raised. And it feels exciting. It feels like you and I talking on the phone. It should feel like that.
And also, I'm curious about how you would recommend using video, because I've started to get a couple of emails with like a little video clip, which seems really nice, but wondering about that.
Yeah, I think it depends on the person. So if you're into video is an amazing way to show gratitude and you could do it at scale by doing a more generic video where you're like, oh my gosh, thank you guys so much. Here's what we've done. I've had EDs, I've had other staff members do something like that, and it's worked really well. You can also do personalized videos where you call out the person's name in it. And then I have a camp of students who are like, paralyzed by video and it feels too hard, and I don't want them to even consider it. I just want them to get that email out there or maybe some other social post. So you get to do the version that works best for you and your team. But if you're comfortable with what I would call the talking head video, just first person, you to the camera, Loom is great for that. Your iPhone's great for that. There's lots of options.
Okay. I think we have time for one last question. So Shay has a question about email marketing platforms. Shay, go ahead.
Hi, I find that everyone is always looking for the new, best, most efficient and UI friendly email platform. And I was just wondering if you have any opinions or how we can best figure out which platform would serve us the best.
I'm so glad you asked this question because we did not cover it, and I do have a strong stance on it. Okay, you're right. Everybody is, and I think this speaks to the beginning part of the conversation, which is, but email's so boring and old and And it's like, yeah, we are constantly, even when it comes to email, well, what's the best tool to use? What's the newest, most innovative, most tech-friendly tool? And I will tell you, because we were talking about spam and deliverability, the best emails are the most basic ones. So I always say, if it looks like a Vanity Fair article, it's too designed. It should look like plain text. You can drop in, a button or a photo or a single video, but it shouldn't look like a graphic designer did it. So for that reason, I love ConvertKit. ConvertKit is my go-to. It's what a lot of online business owners use. It's very affordable. Other reason why I like it is the deliverability and also for the automation. So we talked a little bit about automations and segments. And I find it's pretty easy to use and pretty easy as a visual learner for me to understand of like what's going where and what's triggering. So if somebody joins your email list, they can go through that email welcome series pretty easy. So I like ConvertKit for that. But everybody has their favorite. And a lot of people say, well, my CRM connects with this one, then use that one. Whether it's MailChimp, Constant Contact, we see a lot, totally fine. I'm not as much a fan of the Flowdesks and that of the world because they're so designy. And even my own eye is getting distracted by the graphics and this and that and the flashy things that I'm missing the actual content and the story that you're trying to tell.
Oh, such a good point. And actually, what I would say too is for anyone out there, like you actually do need an email platform, right? Because sending emails out from your personal email, you don't get any data. So I have a question coming in from Jess about email analytics if you're not using an email platform. The answer is you should be using an email platform because they're quite affordable. And without it, you're flying blind.
And this is an asset. Your email list is an asset in the way that your social media followers are not. I've had too many influencers and too many thought leaders and friends who have lost their 100,000+ Instagram accounts and just been locked out, and that's it. And that's the end. Well, that was where their audience was. Instead of building them on an asset that you can export and back up into a CSV file, right? Which you can do with your email list. So your email list is, as you pitch corporate sponsors, as you pitch some of those higher level folks, your email list is an asset. So 100% go get you an email marketing platform. Very affordable.
They're very affordable. Yeah. And question coming in saying, do I think a single person organization should be using an email marketing platform? Yes.
Yeah.
I'm a single person business and I have an email platform. You are a single person business and you use
That's right.
So
yep.
Unless you think the numbers aren't important to you, in which case then I guess don't use an email platform.
But then this is why I hear I don't have enough time, because you're sending what, BCC emails or individual emails. You want to build a business, an organization that is scalable. And it starts with taking your first 50 subscribers, your first 25 subscribers and sticking them on an email marketing tool platform. Yes, do it.
Yeah. And we live in a beautiful world of technology where this is all possible for very little.
That's right. Yes.
Christina, anything that we have not covered that you think is important for folks to know as they head into end of year and they're thinking about their email?
Let me see here. We've covered a ton of ground. I think the first thing I would do is just give yourself permission for it to not be perfect. When I first built the course, that was one of the things I just didn't realize was a sticky point for a lot of people. And then I remembered, oh yeah, it was a sticky point for me too. So what I mean is we get a lot of emails that are stuck in draft mode, or we get a lot of emails that you've written, but you just want your friend, your colleague to look at it, your board member to look at it. You've got to just have a process. I spell check it, I run it through Grammarly, and then I go. Do not ask for a bunch of feedback and a bunch of opinions, right? You want to make sure that your voice, your story is getting out there. Of course, that it's in line with, the integrity of your organization, but don't ask for a bunch of feedback, because that's when we get in that perfectionist loop.
Well, not only that, you get into like the boredom loop, right? Because if everyone has an opinion, you know what they say about everyone?
That's right. That's right.
Right. And you're always going to get, and I don't want to, okay, I'm just going to throw board members in the best. It tends to be board members who want to water down the personality.
Yep.
Because they're afraid of offending, they're afraid of, the liability, and I'm not saying be out here saying offensive things, but you have to claim an edge. Otherwise you are boring. I had Mitch on the podcast who talked about pink sherbet. Have you heard of this? So Mitch Stein talked about we should all try to be like mint sherbet or pink sherbet. Some people hate pink sherbet. Other people love pink sherbet.
That's
There
right.
are very few people in between. So be pink sherbet and not vanilla.
And think about it. You're reading the pink sherbet emails. Those are the ones you look forward to the most just from the consumer side, right? So that's 100% true. It's like the ones that have an edge, a point of view, a little something, a little sass in it, a little like that's what's speaking to you. And that's what we want to from your organization.
Fabulous. All right, Christina, friend, I need to make sure to put your information in the show notes. Is there anything else that we didn't cover that you feel like we should?
Yeah, come hang out with me if you're curious about the course. I have a free webinar all about emails. So you can go to splendidcourses.com/email to go find out more about that.
And we will make sure to put that in the show notes for folks who want to hang with you. But you know what, folks, you heard it here. Christina says it, I say it. Focus on your email list as an asset. Email equals
That's right.
money. That is all.
You don't have to go dance on a bunch of TikToks. That's the best news ever. We promise.
I'm too old for that. All right, friends, thanks so much. And everyone, happy end of year. If you enjoyed this, please like, share, and comment on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast. Have a good day. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.